Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar on the MasterSeries Building Information Modeling Integration with Revit Structure 2011. Thank you all for your time here today. My name is Martin O'Gara. I'm a developer with Civil and Structural Computer Services, and with me today answering questions is my colleague Tommy White. We are presenting here today a step forward in terms of our integration with Revit Structure and how we do that. We've been integrating with Revit Structure for the past 4 years or so, and with this 2011 update of the MasterSeries software, we have modified the way in which we provide our linkage to provide greater flexibility and overall ease of use in terms of the bidirectional integration with Revit Structure. So we previously were in the process of when we would link to Revit, we would simply send a file out, which would be imported, and then we would send a file back again, which would be imported back to Revit. And that required a certain degree of conscious effort on the user's behalf in terms of management, particularly when you wanted to think about managing a proper round-trip bidirectional link. So we came up with the concept of a managed central link, whereby both sides of the modeling environment, both the Revit and the MasterSeries, would connect to a central link manager, and really just changes would be submitted and retrieved from this link manager, and one wouldn't need to worry about saving files with names and where you save them, or worrying about revision numbers, or worrying about how the member IDs get transferred across forwards and backwards. So that's all been taken care of now, and you'll see that as we demonstrated just how easy that concept actually works out. And of course you can still, as many people do, simply just take that one step whereby they want to maybe just start off a Revit model from MasterSeries, or vice versa, where you want to start a MasterSeries model off from Revit, and that's where they prefer to leave that exchange. So with this here new link, we're really offering much improved round trip integration, more robust, more flexible, and we're doing things in this link that perhaps we didn't do before in terms of managing grid lines, better section mapping facilities, and improved ways in which we deal with the exchange of information from one side to the other. We're offering a partial model connection with this new link as well, which we didn't have previously, which you'll find very, very useful. Obviously, if you've got a large project, particularly probably in Revit Structure, whereby it contains much more than what you are interested in as a structural engineer, you can decide, well, I just want to extract out a certain part of the Revit model across to MasterSeries, and that certainly is something that's quite important if you're planning on doing bidirectional linking, to be able to just communicate with a certain part of the model. And we'll see as well, we've got improved section mapping facilities, whereby perhaps if something is slightly unusual in Revit in terms of its section name or such, then that can be mapped explicitly to another section in MasterSeries. By and large, the section mapping is all the default sections in Revit come across to default sections in MasterSeries automatically without you having to specify anything. But for the more unusual stuff, we have those facilities. So let's get started. I would like to start actually on the Revit side of things, and I have a model here, and we will find the MasterSeries tools in the Add-ins tab. So inside Revit we have external tools and the ability to start off this new Revit link manager. Previously you would have seen several commands here. You'd have seen commands to say send model to MasterSeries or update model from MasterSeries, so it's all going to one central area now. If you're new to Revit and haven't really started this type of exchange before with the MasterSeries, you do actually need to install the Revit add-in commands for the MasterSeries, and we have a little install utility which does all of that for you. You don't need to muck about with Revit ini files or add-in files or anything like that. On the MasterSeries website we have here the MasterSeries Revit add-in install utility, which you get when you get through to the user login section of the website. Now that's still actually the 2010 version. We'll be updating that shortly for this new link for the MasterSeries 2011. I should stress actually, well, once you install that, it will detect your versions of Revit, well in this case, in the new case 2011, and it will install the appropriate add-ins as well. I should stress that this new 2011 link is exclusively with Revit Structure 2011. Year on year, the interface with which we communicate with Revit, with each version of Revit, changes, so it's quite difficult to keep developing new technology for older and older interfaces with Revit. So this, of course, the previous interface or exchange we had with Revit, you will still be able to use that to some extent with the previous version of Revit. However, for many of the new features, you would only get those with the Revit Structure 2011 and MasterSeries. So we have here a model that I would like to bring across to MasterSeries, and perhaps just looking at it here, obviously we've got some floors and elements as we'd appreciate. Maybe just looking at a more bare bones analytical view, and this is, I suppose, the first point to note that we know, and perhaps for people who are unfamiliar with Revit, Revit Structure has an analytical model layer, and superimposed onto that, or offset from that, is your physical model setting out. So we would see, for example, as we would maybe zoom in and look back towards that previous view, where we don't have the analytical model presented here, but this column probably is located on the center line, but beams, for example, would be can be justified such that the top of the section is at the analytical level and such. So we can see naturally the way things are coming together here. Now, from a structural engineer's point of view, you might have decided for this analytical model to be joined up so the brace comes right into the node point. So it is, for people who are dealing with the Revit side of things, it is important that you are conscious of the analytical model and ensure its integrity, because this is what will come across to the actual MasterSeries structural analysis modeling side of things. So where things don't connect together, that's going to give you an instability in MasterSeries. Of course, MasterSeries can detect those, tidy it up, and send it back to Revit again. I mean, if we zoom right down in here, we can see probably just about that in the Revit side of things, if I can come out and in again there possibly, we have a disconnectivity here between the top of these roof bracings and the top of column here, and we'll see that as we get across to MasterSeries, but that's some things to bear in mind and to take note of. But nevertheless, we're going to export this to MasterSeries as is, and let's see what issues we face and how we can actually do that. So we're coming into our add-ins tab and external tools and MasterSeries Revit link. And for many of you, this is the first time you'd have seen this type of interface before. So if you're planning on doing a bidirectional link, this is where you initiate this link and you create this new central link area, because this is the initiation of the exchange. We can create a new link, or we can, if we had already started the link off in MasterSeries side of things, we want to create a new model, we can connect to an existing link and import that. We're going to do that in a second, but what I want to do with this model just now is simply do a one-directional, unidirectional exchange, whereby I'm just sending this model across to MasterSeries, and this is where I plan to terminate the exchange of information. And before we would do that, perhaps you can think about things like section mapping, whereby you can browse for a MasterSeries section name that you know to be a standard name in MasterSeries. I'll just cancel that, and then obviously then browse as well to pick up one of your Revit section names, whether it be in a family or one of your existing sections in this model. So those can all be saved and can be reused again and again for each project that you do in a proper database environment. So all I'm simply going to do here is to say export to a standalone Exchange file. So this is more or less what we possibly were doing previously, whereby we were creating Exchange files that could be imported to MasterSeries. So we will export that, and exporting to this location is fine, yes. And it reads all the element data, the grid lines, the levels, the structural information, saving it to that file, and here we get a summary of what's been exported. And it's useful just to take a quick look at this here to see if there's any information in this that might help us to diagnose any problems. For example, we can see that the total number of beams and braces type elements have been exported is this, with none skipped. We've got one column skipped. We could try and jump into that and see what it is. For more detail on all of this here, we can go and view the log file, and we can see, for example, the member ID that may have been skipped, and then we can go and view the reasons for that. For example, I know there are some purlin members which aren't structural members in this exchange, which we would have read, decided that they're not relevant to us, and then simply skip them. But you can verify all of that through the information. As I say, these ID numbers that you get here are really key in terms of locating exactly where these elements are and what they're actually doing. You can locate elements in Revit through their ID, and these IDs are quite important as well. They provide the linkage, as we'll see later on when we do bidirectional exchanges. So we'll close that, and all we simply want to do now is come across to the MasterSeries, and let's start off a new MasterSeries model from that export. So we'll import the from the Revit Link Manager, and we're not doing a bidirectional exchange, we just want to import that file to create a new model from a standalone exchange file. And here we have it. Open that. And if you noticed in the Revit side, we did actually have some floor slabs and some actual shear walls as well. Now I know the floor slabs in that model were simply composite decks. We certainly wouldn't be modeling composite decks as finite element surfaces in the MasterSeries. We used load distribution techniques and appropriate things instead. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. But actually it would be quite useful for those shear walls to be imported as finite element surfaces. So let's do that, and we'll extract that. And it's telling me here actually that there are some sections that it's read from that exchange file which is going to have difficulty understanding, and that's because these have been renamed in Revit to have some unusual tags at the ends of them. Now that's an ideal candidate of where I would have been better managing those, putting them into the section mapping database, and they would have come across not as this name but without the blue name if you were to enter the details correctly in the section mapping database at the Revit side of things. But we'll go ahead with that. We can see how we can deal with that in a second as well. And extracting all of that, and we'll load that model into MasterSeries. We get some messages about members being out of straight and some things being close together. But by and large, we've got everything in here. Certainly when we look at it in a 3D perspective, it looks reasonable. I can see, for example, if I were to take my 3D off, certainly I've got disconnectivity between certain areas here, which I knew I would get. And we've got some mesh generation problems here with the FE surfaces, which doesn't really surprise me, because I'm sure there are some little tidying up to do in certain areas. But yes, I mean, those nodes can be merged together, and if you're doing a bidirectional exchange, which we aren't in this case, those can be sent back to Revit. With regard to the sections that didn't come across, all is not lost. You still can come in to the edit and the properties in MasterSeries, and really the strategy here would be go to global section changes, and down here we've brought those sections in with their name so you can see what they're meant to be. So quite simply one can come here to this 152.152.23 UC red and simply just say, well, it actually is just a 152.152.23 UC, and here we are right down the bottom here, and that fixes that problem, and we can do that for the other one or two sections that are there. Now that's where we're going to leave that single directional exchange, and what I'm going to do here now is start off a new exchange, perhaps we might just do a one directional exchange from MasterSeries to Revit, but really that's just really very much the same process with everything swapped around. But this time we're going to do and set up our proper bi-directional exchange. So let's take a model in MasterSeries as the starting point, and we'll come across to, and we'll take this little sample project here, which has got some niceties in it. It's got lots of members going in all sorts of directions. We can see we've got grid lines here. We have our levels defined as well, which will come across to Revit, and we have a cellular section being specified down below here also. I'm just going to save this file as a copy of itself, and I'll just call that A in case I need to go back to my original for any reason, and save and continue with the new file. Right, let's get myself out of the editor, and with my existing MasterSeries model I'm going to come to the export menu, and we've got Revit Structure here. Now one of the things that, I'll just turn off this 3D to make things a little more transparent. One of the things that we do need to be aware of, and people do often forget, is when initiating something from MasterSeries towards the Revit Structure side of things, Revit does distinguish between say an inclined beam member and what would be a brace member. So for example, in this roof here I've got an inclined beam member, but also at a similar slope I've got some in-plane roof bracing members. It's important that Revit understands that one is a brace and one is a beam element. MasterSeries doesn't really worry about that. It's just a structural model, and its properties are what its properties are. But we can identify those members before exporting it across to Revit, because all these members are going to be created anew and afresh in Revit when we send it across. Now we have all these bracing members specified here already, but simply, one can pick them and such. Also, really, there are other areas in MasterSeries in which bracing members can be defined for loading purposes and such, and those definitions can be copied across to this end simply by clicking on some of these buttons here. And in this case, if we reset this here, the 3D Model Manager bracing members were copied across. Now you might not have the 3D Model Manager. You don't necessarily have to have the 3D Model Manager to facilitate the bi-directional exchange. I suppose one thing I haven't mentioned thus far is that what you do need for the integration with Revit Structure is our MasterCAD module. And that's the module that the license to be able to communicate with Revit Structure is held. So if you've just got MasterFrame on its own, I'm afraid you'll not be able to do this until you have a MasterCAD license also. Okay, and that's the bracing members specified. And then we'll go in, and remember, this is a new link. It seems to be that there may have been an existing link on this at one point in the past, so I'm just going to remove that. So I'm starting off with a brand new link, and this is, if you can remember back to my PowerPoint presentation, this is we're about to create or set up this central link that both MasterSeries and Revit Structure will connect to. So we're going to say create a new link, and I'm going to call it just my link 1, and save it in that location. And at this stage as well, I can say that I want to link to the full model or just to selected elements, but I'm quite happy for the full model to be sent across. And it's saying here that this model is connected to this link file with some status here, and it's not yet connected to a Revit model. So let's submit this to the central link area, and that's all we need to do. So coming across to Revit, let me just start up a new blank Revit document to receive this exchange. And one of the things actually in a Revit document is, well, one can set up your own template, but the default template comes in with 2 levels. I'd like just my own levels to be created, so I'm just going to delete that level such that it just has its very basic level at 0, which it absolutely must have, and then my other levels from the MasterSeries will come across. So back to my add-ins and into external tools and the MasterSeries Revit Link Manager. And now I'm going to connect to the link that I already created back at the MasterSeries side of things. And there we have it, link 1. Now once you've set up that initial concept and both sides are now linked, and we can see here that this is connected to this link file with the MasterSeries model $5 model that I've set up, and MasterSeries revision number has not yet been imported to Revit, and it will be when I say it recognizes that this is a new model in Revit. So I want to say create the new model from the link, and we're getting the progress now of everything coming across. This is the slightly slower part. We're going to get messages about overriding the families that may already be present, which is fine and harmless, and a few of those for the different family types. And we can see already, obviously, because I'm looking at an elevation here primarily, the levels already coming into play, and it's going through finding all the sections from the families, the default Revit families, importing all the IDs. Okay, a few little warning messages about beams and brace slightly off axis, just 2 of them. They're again nothing too critical, so we'll just say OK to that. And again we can see we've got 595 sections imported and 3 with default section. That's a warning now. It's good to take note of that and heed that. So it's really saying that 3 of the sections that we specified in MasterSeries, we couldn't find an equivalent in the Revit standard families. So we can identify those in just a second, but it's useful maybe just to view the log file, and it's telling us here that section rectangular hollow section, that the 250 by 250 by 5 mil wall section failed to import, and we'll probably see that repeated down through the structure here as well. So we'll just close that and close that, and let's have a look at the 3D analytical view. And I'm just going to actually change this to shaded with edges and maybe with a fine type of shading as well. It looks a little better that way. Now straight away here I can see that these sections don't look right. We can see down here at the corner that the status reporting on them that those are indeed the 250 by 250 by 5s, which are just coming in as whatever the default column section is. It looks like a concrete section, but it's giving me the name but telling me really it couldn't find that. So let's have a look at why that might have been the case. Before we maybe delve into that, you can see quite nicely here you've got your cellular section coming across here, and if I look at one of my floor plan levels, I can see all of my grid line definitions coming across as well. And again, section sizes, beta angles, geometry, all carrying across. So let's sort out this missing section. One of the easiest ways to do that is naturally one can click on a section here and quite simply right click on it, and we can say select all the instances of that section type. Okay, seems to be working quite hard there. And up here we'll just come and edit the family to say that we want to change it, and we'll load a different family type, and we'll come into the structural families, and into the columns and steel, and we should see here that we have a square hollow sections family. And making our way down through this list, to look to see if we do have a 250 by 250 by 5. There's a 250. We don't have a 250 by 250 by 5, but we do have a 250 by 250 by 6.3. For some reason or another, maybe that's a more historic section that we have in MasterSeries that maybe isn't in these definitions here, which can of course be modified at the MasterSeries end to be set as such. But we will just substitute that with the slightly thicker wall there and say OK to that to apply that to everything here. And in a few moments then we'll send that change back to MasterSeries. Excellent, and we can see that now looking much more sensible. Perhaps what I would like to do is to make some changes and then obviously bring those changes back to MasterSeries. So let's make various different types of changes. We've just made a section type change. We perhaps can look at putting in a beam at a certain floor plan level or something like that. So let's go and create a plan view here, so I can easily just go in and do that into plan view and into a floor plan, and let's make a floor plan of level 1A. And back home here, let's create a beam, and not a 115 by 50 plate. Let's make it something a bit more sensible, like a 205/146, and we'll just snap that as say something like center point snapping from there across to the point across on the other side. So that's a new member generated for me on Revit. And let's also come back to my analytical model, and I'll simply just want to do some geometry changing. And perhaps the easiest way I can do something like that is to simply take a column, and I'm just going to drag that to make that a little bit bigger. And obviously if you're doing this in reality, this wouldn't be the way you do it. You do it in a much more controlled way, perhaps on one of your floor plans, but that's the easiest way for me to do a very simple change here and now. And perhaps I might also decide to delete some members somewhere. Perhaps come down here and take this bracing member, and let's simply delete that. And hopefully we'll see all of those changes coming across to the Revit side of things. Now, what might be interesting as well is in Revit, if we are back in MasterSeries, if we were to take this original model, and let me just actually save that Revit model there now, because I haven't actually done that yet. And in MasterSeries, let me take one of these sections and actually change its section size to something else. So let's take one of the ones that was changed from a 250 by 250 by 5 to a 6.3 in Revit. And in the meantime, before we exchange any information, I'm going to create myself a little problem here. That somebody at this side has decided this column actually would be better because of its location and such as a circular hollow section. And we scroll up here, we'll get a CHS, and we'll make it something like a similar sort of sized CHS instead of the rectangular hollow section that it previously was. So let's save and park out of here, and we'll just exit the editor also. Right, well actually we haven't submitted these changes on the Revit side, so let's go back to our add-ins. And this is really where you see the benefit of the central managed link area. I don't need to, previously you would have really needed to ensure that you exported that file to the same directory and location as all your other Exchange files, whereas now I can simply say submit the changes to the link. And it knows where everything is. It's got a central area for managing IDs and lots of other common information. And and we can see everything that's exported again with the ability to view the log file. So back at MasterSeries, and let's see how these changes come across to the MasterSeries. So back into our link manager, and we will simply say update the model from the link. And we can see quite clearly here now as we highlight each individual element in the revision control, each individual change is shown to us with the changes that are going to be made. And also, quite interestingly, in this scenario where we had made a change to the section in Revit and then exported it to MasterSeries and also made a change to the MasterSeries section in the meantime, we now have a conflict here whereby we could possibly keep the change in MasterSeries or keep the change that was made in Revit. So if I simply uncheck this box here to say we don't want to accept this revised section in Revit, and we will remain with the current section, which is different from the original section. And of course all these other changes that we can see here are indeed the change in the substituted SHS section from Revit. So scrolling on down, of course we've got more geometry changes, and finally at the bottom, the creation of one new member and the deletion of the member that we deleted in Revit. So let's just simply say OK to that and allow that to continue, and we will see that those changes have come across: the change in geometry, the change in section size, the deletion of the member, and if we look at planet level 1, the insertion of the new member with its appropriate section property and indeed grade as well. So let's just come back out to full frame, and we'll continue on this here, making changes, further changes in MasterSeries, and we'll see how we can get those exported back to Revit. So let's come and let's insert some new members. So add new BIM members, and we'll just continue with that existing or previous addition of members and placing more members in along that line in that fashion. And again, let's create one of these conflicts whereby we might come to the properties here and say perhaps take this section and decide that we want to make this also a CHS type section of an appropriate size. And perhaps in the meantime we might also come back to Revit and change that section to something else from its current section to we'll make that simply another square hollow section, a 120 by 120 by 5, and saving that, and back to MasterSeries, coming away with those changes, saving them, and we'll not worry about the loading anomaly there. And let's submit those changes to the link list. So as we can see here, again, we're not having to worry about files or where they are, just simply submitting and retrieving all the time from the central managed link. So back across to Revit, and we'll simply do an update from the model, and we can see nicely now that we have, in this case, and here we can say zoom to selected member, we can see that we previously decided that we would remain with the CHS change in MasterSeries, so that's naturally coming across to the Revit. But now we have a conflict here, and we can see that across this member, whereby it was previously this, the current section is this, it was previously that, but it was also changed in MasterSeries to this. But we will accept that change by leaving that box checked, and the creation of 2 new members, and we'll just simply say OK to that, and the changes that are made, and we can see now indeed this is our CHS section appropriately, and also this section has now come across from MasterSeries as the CHS, and also then at level 1 we have our 2 new sections coming in, which were the 457 UBs. So there we have it, a nice round trip bi-directional integration between MasterSeries and Revit, with some Lovely revision control facilities allowing you to see precisely what's happening and the flexibility and control to accept or deny certain changes, all within an easy to use central managed link environment where you don't need to worry about where your files are or where they're being saved to.